2 minutes each. 2 minutes each. Yeah. Too close. So. La pregunta de Flavia. La pregunta de Flavia. Caitlin? It's. Yeah.
Yes, Flavia, you bring up a painful question about the use of numbers and how it might make the border seem, worse than what it really is. In fact, El Paso is the #1 or #2 safest U.S. city in the entire United States. It's a statistic that comes out of FBI crime statistics. About the use of quantitative, I have stressed before the importance of mixed methods, and I would say even mixed activism. I think that the early anti-violence social movements wanted to stress the use of numbers because they thought that it would shock people to hear the total numbers. But after a while, people became numb to the numbers, and they also worried about the perverse effects on the image of the border. And so, and all along, there had been mothers and feminists who said, we can't only talk about the numbers, we have to talk about the personal stories of these women who've disappeared or been murdered. And so, just to give you an example of some of the pictures in here, I have a lot of pictures in the 2008 book, but even in this book, a picture that the parents put up of their daughter. Have you seen her? This is what she looks like. This is her name. To personalize and make people understand in a very personal way that this is not just about numbers. And so I do think it needs to be mixed. Also, we can use numbers in different ways. For example, when I did the surveys for the 2008 book of the 400, a cross-section of 400 women in Ciudad Juarez, age 15 through 39, I asked, there are different ways to define violence, of course. For me, I was especially interested in physical and sexual violence. I mean, there's psychological, there's verbal, etc., but physical. So I would ask the question in different ways, have you experienced this from your partner in your lifetime? There are different ways to ask questions. And the percentage I came out with was approximately 1 in 4. I think anybody who read the book in our region, once they realized that I cited statistics from the United States showing with even larger samples that 1 in 4 women had experienced physical violence from their partner, they began to de-escalate. Well, I hope that the rational among them said, this is not just a Mexico issue. This is an issue that is transborder. In fact, it's actually global. And so sometimes numbers can be used that way to dispel stereotypes. As for the other question about the border, every time there's an election, we hear about border security, even in the state of Texas. When they talk about budgets, when it's time for new people to run for office, all of a sudden, border security becomes the issue of the campaign. And it's partly to get the funding that they want, to make it seem as though the border is more fearful than what it really is. So I absolutely agree with you. This is about the politics of fear. I think Norma also mentioned that before. This is a political strategy used by the right to try to other people who are in Mexico and south of the border. Thank you both.
I'll just be very, very quick. I think because Kathleen has really answered the question, but I think comparison is really important. And so even when you're looking, I mean, Kathleen's work is clearly comparing these borderlands around the world. So, I mean, that contextualizes the kind of levels of violence and so forth. And I think that's very helpful. In the work that I'm doing, it's very useful to have the cross-border comparisons, right, about what's happening between Guyana and Suriname, so that they don't actually seem exceptional on, on their own, right? So I think that's very, it's very useful to do that kind of work, that comparative work. So, yeah, so to put that into context. On the other point that you raised about how we, the kind of erosion of funding and possibility of your organizing and keeping that going. I mean, that is an ongoing one, and I think under neoliberal governance models and economies, that's going to continue. And I only can, say that, our insistence on continuing to do the work and building, critical thinkers and critical mass is going to counter that. Yes, there's a lot of cooptation. Yes, that continues. But, I think we just have to keep on fighting that as well. I mean, that's just a very blanket. But, I mean, I don't know what kind of strategies to suggest there. But, yeah, thank you for your question.
I agree with you. Estoy de acuerdo contigo en la propuesta, pero también se puede hacer una lectura de este programa de transferencias desde otro ángulo, y probablemente aquí cuente mucho el contexto colombiano, que es muy distinto al brasilero. La experiencia es completamente inédita en la medida en que el Estado dice: no voy a poner límite en qué puede utilizar, les propone una línea de inversión de esos dineros, y después ellas tienen absoluta, si quieres, un poco de libertad para mover la plata, reinvertirla, y en ese sentido yo estoy en parte de acuerdo. Claro que el contexto es muy distinto, porque esto no permite, digamos, formar sistemas de seguridad social, que es lo que se supone que siempre va detrás de una política de transferencia. Ahora se llama de seguridad social, que es una política muy neoliberal, pero que en Colombia no alcanza ni siquiera a alcanzar esa dimensión, para que te hagas una idea. Y sin embargo, yo lo que he puesto la mirada es sobre todo en la tremenda creatividad de las mujeres para mover esas mínimas cantidades de dinero, que de todas maneras resultan absolutamente, digamos, es una experiencia inédita de que ellas reciben la regularidad de la entrada de dinero. Es una experiencia que permite hacer una programación de inversión y que efectivamente las relanza a la financiarización de los pobres que ha generado las políticas neoliberales. Entonces, tengo una mirada que en parte puede ser, si quieres, no positiva, sino optimista en términos de la agentividad que tienen las mujeres para manejar esos dineros. Un sistema muy distinto al que de todas maneras plantea Ferguson en su análisis para el sur de África.
Ok, encerramos. Quero muito agradecer vocês, Norma. O que foi? Sim. Agradecer o público que veio, que ficou, que esteve aqui presente, a Flávia 1000 vezes, os meninos, Mário, Tuane, Luísa 1000 vezes, Melissa e a equipe da tradução, todo o pessoal do Pagu. E, bom, espero que a gente se continue comunicando muito e continue pensando todas essas coisas juntos. Muitíssimo obrigado e, bom, boa sorte.